and I'm excited to share these products with you. Fall is just one of my favorite times of year. So let's get started. Don't mind the messy table here. Okay, so this is the first card. I'm going to stamp the envelope, and this is what the inside looks like. So I stamped off the leaf. So stamp the leaf once on a piece of scrap paper, and then the second generation stamp it on the card, and then in full generation stamp the greeting. And I went ahead and I sponged around the outside also, and the color here is Cajun Craze. Okay, and you've got all these parts and pieces. You've got a piece of vellum cardstock, and all I did was rip that all the way around on all four sides. You've got a piece of designer series paper that you're also going to rip around. All right, then you're going to go ahead and cut out the leaves. You can see here you've got copper foil paper, so the big leaf is cut out of copper foil. You've got some of the smaller leaves cut out of the vellum, and then a smaller leaf also with the copper. And then you've got a piece of the braided linen thread, and I just made a bow and I just pulled the ends apart. This comes apart very easily, and you can fray it as much or as little as you want. All right. Stamp the greeting also in the Cajun Craze. You've got some little embellishments here, the sticky back sequence, the okay, back it up a minute. The vellum, don't put any adhesive on the vellum where you'll be able to see it, because adhesive does show through the vellum. So there's just a piece of regular adhesive on the back here that you can't see underneath these layers. Everything is glued down. The leaves here, this is popped up with a dimensional, and then these are all just glued on top so that they're all glued down here under this leaf. All right, and then the braided linen thread is put on with a glue dot, and then I've got dimensionals behind the greeting. Okay, so that's card number 1. Card number 2. All right, you've got one piece of DSP that you'll notice is not big enough for the card front, and that's going to be for your envelope flap. All right. And then this one is with the pretty peacock. Inside is just a piece of whisper white with one of the leaves, and this is an old olive, and then just an extra little strip that I've glued down at the bottom. Here I've stamped the pumpkins in crumb cake and then die cut those out. And then there is a crumb cake circle back here as well, a stitched circle that has already been cut for you, and everything's layered on top of that. The circle is put on with dimensionals, and I'll explain why in a second. And then these two larger pumpkins are glued down to the circle, and the smaller pumpkins are put on with dimensionals, and then the leaves are just glued and stuck in. Now, to create this little curly Q, I've given you really thin piece of the green, and all you do is take either a skewer that you might have. I use one of my take your pick tools, and I'm going to show you with a larger piece here, but start by just turning this around the skewer and then just kind of twirl it. And then after you have it as long as you want, you're going to pull the inside out. It's going to look like this when you've pulled it all out. You see that? Okay, and then that is just glued down with either a glue dot that's been rolled up or just a little bit of green mono adhesive glue. Now, The reason that you're going to pop the circle up on dimensionals is because of this piece of ribbon. And the ribbon is just a flat piece of ribbon. And what you would do is glue down the end. Well, put glue along the entire piece here and not liquid glue. I would use a tape runner. And then you're going to lay this piece down and then just buckle these pieces. And as you do that, they're going to start sticking together because they've got adhesive on the back of them. Okay, and that's how I got that little bit of pleated look here. These loops actually have adhesive on the back of them, so they kind of stick together. All right, and then you could leave this loose or you could tack it down, either way. And if you don't get a nice look the way you wanted here, then I would just lay this down and I would just flag the end or cut it at an angle, and that would look just as pretty down here. All right, then you've got a piece of crumb cake and Pretty Peacock to put the greeting on and to flag it. And then I would flag it the same way you do the ribbon. If you make this a flag, then do this a flag. If you're just going to cut this on an angle, just cut this one on an angle. And then you've got some embellishments here in your kit. Okay, all right, that's that one. Is a little bit more detailed. It's got lots of parts and pieces to it. I did run this already for you through the birch, with the birch stamp. So you've got that piece. You've got another piece here that's already been run through the corrugated, and that's the crumb cake paper. And you do have a couple of the sequin embellishments. All right, so this is the finished card. All right, and the envelope has pumpkins on it. All right, and you'll notice I did not color the pumpkins in totally, and I used the dark blends, but you could also use dark markers. I happened to use Peacock and Cajun Craze on this one, and I stamped them in soft suede. So I didn't color all the way. I left the white. I think that gave it a little bit more of a realistic look, kind of pops it up. And also this is done with the masking technique. So the masking technique, you're going to stamp the small pumpkins first, and then create a mask by stamping the small pumpkins on a Post-it note. Cut the Post-it note out and stick the Post-it note on top of these pumpkins so that you can't see them. And then stamp the large pumpkin right on top of it, and that's how it's made to look like the big pumpkin is behind the little pumpkins. All right. All right, so the card. So here you can see there's a lot going on here. I'm gonna leave it for a second and I'll just explain. So the base is thick white, all right? And then the first layer is the birch layer down here. Then you're going to tear the corrugated as much or as little as you want. I probably should have torn it just a little bit more so I could see more of the birch. Then you'll take the piece of designer series paper that is the Cajun Craze, and I just took my fingernail and I just roughed up the edge. You can also do this with a scissor. Okay, so that's glued down. So far everything's been glued down. Then I did the same thing with the piece of the Pretty Peacock designer series paper. Kind of roughed up the edges a little bit, curled it over, distressed it as much or as little as you like, down with glue. You have these embellishments from the Bird Ballad Suite. Those are put on with glue dots. Okay, I found that's the best way to get those to stick down. This twine, the twine comes looking just like this. So I doubled it up and I made a bow. as big or as little as you want. And then I started pulling it apart. And if you take your pick tool or a scissor, you can start breaking up the threads and breaking up the twist. All right, I'm not going to do this because this is someone's kit. All right, then I did the same thing with the Cajun Craze thread, doubled it, made a bow, and then the linen thread, I just wrapped that around my hands, and I stuck this down first, and then I stuck the bows on top. All right. The greeting is just a small square, and I edged it on the stamp pad itself with Cajun Craze. All right. Inside, I just did the pumpkins, again with that masking technique. Once you make those masks, save them, because you can use them over and over and over again. And I just keep them inside my stamp case. So here's one of my masks. So you can see I stamped it up here near the top and then just trimmed it out so it's still sticky on the back. And that way I can use it over and over again. Okay. All right, so that's that card. And last but not least is a 3D project. And you've got one of these pillow boxes. And the pillow boxes, you just pop it open like this. And this side, this side goes in. They are actually scored, so it's just kind of hard for me to see it right now. The lighting in here, there you go. Okay. Fill it and then do the same on the other side. So this is what it looks like when it's done. I just wrapped this new ribbon around it and tied it into a bow. I cut a bunch of leaves and I glued all the leaves together so there is one piece, and then I just stuck them down. Well, what I did is I put a hole in the back of the through the leaves, just using my paper piercing tool, and threaded through this in Cajun Craze. And then I also threaded it through the tag, which is also glued to the leaves, and just tied a little bow underneath this big bow here. Okay. And there's an embellishment to put just on the edge of the tag. So just a sweet little gift. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Let me know. And I hope you enjoy this product spotlight, and I hope to stamp with you again soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.